Right, sorry for the confusion. It would appear that the soundtrack on the video that I originally released at 6 o'clock this morning has a copyright issue, which YouTube didn't pick up on when I first uploaded this video, so I've had to quickly re-edit it and then re-upload the video. Sorry for the inconvenience. Hey up! Right, I've got to say, Royal Enfield are really good at these sort of promotions. I thought I'd let you know about this at the beginning of this video. Royal Enfield are releasing the new Shotgun 650 Icon Limited Edition on the 12th of February. This is a collaboration between Royal Enfield and Icon Racing, and there are only going to be 100 of these bikes available worldwide. Only 25 of these bikes are going to be allocated to Europe. Registrations actually opened on the 6th of February. I'm not really sure what the allocation criteria will be, but you know, it's certainly worth, if you're interested in snagging one of these bikes, getting straight along to their website via a link which I will leave in the video description down below to register your interest. In the UK, each of these bikes will be priced at £7,399 Great British pounds. If this special edition is your kind of thing, you've got no chance of getting one unless you register, but wait until you've watched this video first. As I said, a link with all the details and how to register will be in the video description down below. Right, let's get down to business. The benefits of motorcycling. This is a huge subject, and I'm probably only going to scratch the surface. I've tried to plan this out, but it didn't really work out. So I'm just going to run some B-roll talk and see what happens. I do despair about all the negativity that surrounds motorcycling sometimes, especially here on YouTube. Now, I understand why people do it. For a start, it's difficult to avoid some negativity, especially the way things are going these days with personal transport. And of course, negativity attracts attention, it gets views. But I always try to achieve a balance. You know, I inform you of things that I think you need to know about, but I try to balance it out with the good stuff because, you know, motorcycling is a wonderful pastime. It's a fantastic way of getting around. Right from being a youngster and, you know, throughout my adulthood, motorcycling has really enhanced my life in a lot of ways. In practical terms, allowing me to get around and giving me freedom, which in turn has enhanced my psychological disposition because, you know, as I've said in the past, I've suffered with depression my entire life. And although occasionally it does get the better of me from time to time, I'm a great believer in that motorcycling has helped to temper that condition. It's made my life much more positive than it would have been if I hadn't discovered motorcycles. I genuinely believe motorbikes saved my life. I certainly wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't taken up riding as a 17-year-old. Now, I'm making this video for everybody, young and old, but I particularly want to appeal to the younger generation. Whenever I make videos about the challenges facing personal transport in the future, I always get the same comments, and I get loads of them about how difficult it is for the younger generation to get into motorcycling now, how, you know, the priorities are different to how they were when we were younger. There's one school of thought that says it's been made too difficult for them to be able to take up motorcycling these days. You know, in some countries they say that it's too expensive and it takes too long, it's too complicated to get a motorcycle licence. And I hear the same excuses from the younger generation, sort of echoing those things said by the older generation. Oh, you boomers stole our future from us. It was easy for you back in your day. It's too difficult for us now. We can't do it because of what you did in the past. Well, I'm going to counter that argument with that is an apathetic view or outlook on life. Boomers, as you call us, never did anything to create any sort of political or financial or legal situation that currently exists as a barrier to your future. Nothing was easy for us. We had far fewer opportunities than you have now. We had far less support and we had far less legal protection, especially when it came to employment. Unemployment was an all-time high when I left school. Jobs were scarce. Inflation and the cost of living was at an all-time high, and interest rates were far higher than they are now. Just like you, we had to start at the bottom of the ladder. We had to go out, we had to find work, we had to earn money, and then we built our lives up from there. So stop lecturing me about how easy my life was 40 odd years ago compared to your life now. I started my first job at the age of 11, working 2 nights a week after school and Saturday and Sunday mornings for 32 pence an hour, doing hard manual work outdoors in all weathers on a market garden. Now, I held on to that job throughout school and university, and getting to uni from my home took an hour and a half and 2 bus rides, and I soon realised that it would be better if I had my own transport. I couldn't get a loan then because the part-time job that I was doing wasn't considered proper work. I wasn't eligible. So I had to save my money up, and eventually my dad loaned me the rest of the money to buy a cheap, knackered, second-hand bike for 200 quid, which then cost me another £80 to make it roadworthy. My first insurance for the year was £90 third party only, and the government had just introduced the new 2-part test, and if I remember correctly it cost me round about £250 to get through my test, because to get through my first part involved a star rider course every Sunday morning for 2 hours for 10 weeks in order to qualify to take my second part. Bearing in mind, even then at that point when I was at uni, I was still only making 75 pence an hour, and I had to give my Sunday mornings working up for the star rider course. It was difficult. It was costly. Relatively speaking, it wasn't that different to what you have to do now. But I got there. I got my first independent motorised transport, fully qualified, with the ability to carry a pillion, and I've never looked back since. But the barriers that were put in front of me back then were not the fault of previous generations. The barriers were put there by the same people that put those barriers there now. The political classes, the politicians that make life difficult for us by over-regulating everything that we want or need to do. And they're influenced by the financial sector, the banks that levy the interest rates, which makes everything so expensive. We had to contend with exactly the same problems that you have to contend with now. It's just a relative difference, that's all. And that brings us back to the apathetic malaise that a lot of you youngsters are under the influence of now. Your biggest barrier is your mindset. And I'm not entirely putting the blame for this on you. Education over the last 10 years, or even 15 years, has been largely responsible for this as far as I'm concerned. You've been indoctrinated. Now, I know several young men and women who I sort of come in contact with through friends and family, ranging from the early to the late 20s. None of them drive, and whenever I discuss it with them, I hear the same stories. Oh, it's too expensive to learn how to drive, and it's too complicated, and cars and motorcycles are too expensive, and the insurance costs too much. And the more you talk to them about it, the more you begin to realise it's a case of they don't want the responsibility. They want to be carried everywhere. They want the buses to take them to work and back, or they want members of the family to give them lifts everywhere. And I sit back and I look at what they have to go through. just to get around in normal daily life. £8 a day in bus fares just to get to work and back. Hours every week standing at bus stops waiting for buses that may or may not arrive. Simple weekly shopping being a major logistical nightmare. Twice a week because they can't carry a full week's shopping on the bus. Their employment opportunities severely limited because they have to travel by bus, so there are some jobs they quite simply can't take. And then there's the regular phone calls to friends and family asking if they might be able to pick them up in the car and take them somewhere, or pick them up and bring them home because the buses aren't running, inconveniencing other people. And it doesn't take a genius to work out that if they just buckled down, spent the money and the time getting a licence and getting a vehicle, whether it be a bike or a car, in the long run they would actually save a lot of time, effort and money. So in the long run, if they stick to that mindset, they've got a lifetime of hassle, inconvenience and expense. Taking your test and getting a bike is just a few months of hassle, inconvenience and expense, and then once you've got that licence, you've got decades of freedom. Now let's say you're working, and let's say you decide to make that jump and get a provisional licence and buy a reasonably priced second-hand small capacity motorcycle. Even before you take your test, you can immediately reap the benefits. You've got independent travel. You're not limited to bus timetables. You set off and you can go to work when you're ready to go to work. And just going on the bus journeys I used to take when I was a youngster before I rode, getting to university, it used to take me an hour and a half on the bus and one change, 2 buses. In a bike I could do that in 15 or 20 minutes. Not only that, because I had a small capacity bike, it cost me a fraction financially to make those journeys every week. It was a lot cheaper in petrol to ride a bike to work than it was to use the bus. Okay, you've got the cost of your insurance on top of that, but over the course of a year you're still going to save shed loads of money. And the money that you save in your day-to-day travel is going to go a long way towards getting you through your tests, so that can become a permanent situation. And your employment prospects immediately open up. You've got independent travel. You can travel farther, faster. You're no longer limited to the limitations of bus travel. So it brings a whole new potential for better paid employment. And likewise, all your social and domestic travel is going to be equally as cheap. Sling a set of panniers over the back of your bike and you can do a full week's shopping. I can. And again, you're not limited to someone else's timetable. You come and go as you please once you've got a motorcycle. Parking a motorcycle, generally speaking, is free. In the town where I live, you can use bus lanes, and you can in a lot of other towns and cities. Getting through your test, granted, is going to take some work and dedication, but it's not impossible to get through a test. 99% of your average people can manage it. And bearing in mind what I've just said, believe me, the financial and convenience benefits far outweigh any negatives that you put up as a barrier in front of you for actually, getting through a bike test, getting a bike and getting out on the road. Chaining yourself to a bus timetable for the rest of your life is no way to live, believe me. Now, those are the practical reasons for biting the bullet, turning your back on buses and lifts from friends and family. But there are other benefits as well. One of those benefits is a physical benefit. Now, a motorcycle is motorised transport. It does the bulk of the work for you in propelling you along. But it's not like a car, in that you do still have to interact with the bike physically, as well as physically having to manhandle the bike before and after a ride. During the ride, you're using muscles all the time. Riding a bike is a balancing trick. You have to shift your body weight to steer. You have to use muscles to shift that body while you steer. And okay, it's not a full-grown workout in a gym, but it does help to keep you fit. And then there's the mental exercise of riding a bike. You know, you tend to zone out in a bus or a taxi. You're relaxed and your only real concern is getting off at the right stop. Riding a motorcycle is a constant mental exercise, but it's one of the most pleasurable mental exercises you'll ever encounter in your life. That feeling of synchronization between rider and bike, and the way a motorcycle interacts with the environment, it heightens your senses and blows away mental cloudiness, which creates a lasting clarity of state of mind and a lasting sense of awareness. In essence, riding a motorcycle switches your brain on, and it overrides any worries or concerns that are going on in your life at that time. And that's a feeling that lasts long after you get to your destination and get off your bike. And then there's the feeling that a motorcycle gives you that no other mode of transport can. I've always said that riding a motorcycle is the closest experience you can have to flying without actually flying. In order to change direction with a motorcycle, you have to bank like an aeroplane would have to bank in order to turn. And the best way I can describe it, although I feel a little bit silly now, is when I was really young, when I very first started riding a motorcycle, I used to fancy that riding a bike felt like being a Spitfire pilot, weaving in and out of potholes and avoiding debris and imperfections on the road. It's a wonderful sensation. I would even go so far as saying it's addictive. But if you add these mental advantages or benefits of riding a bike together, what you have is a situation that releases endorphins in your brain, dopamine, serotonin and oxytocin. These are the brain chemicals that are known as happy chemicals. They elevate your mood and lift your spirits. In effect, they make you happier. And that condition lasts long after you've got off your motorcycle. In fact, I'd go as so far as to say that in me personally, those chemicals are released just when I think about riding a motorcycle. That is an amazing benefit to your mental health. And you don't have to be travelling at high speed on a powerful machine to experience this. Any motorcycle, even a 50cc moped, will supply you with that feeling. Now, like I said at the beginning, I've only just scratched the surface of this subject. The benefit of motorcycles is much bigger than just getting from A to B for X number of pounds. As a youngster, a motorcycle can be a major benefit to your life in so many ways. For what, when you look back on it, will only be a little bit of effort and expense. So stop taking the default position of talking yourself out of it and just labelling it as being an impossible goal. It is quite easily achievable, and you will reap the benefits for the rest of your life. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. It does tickle the algorithm and it helps me out. Now, there are other ways you can help me out via PayPal donations or my Patreon page, both of which will be in the video description down below, or you can use the super thanks button just below the video that you're watching here. Either way, it's not obligatory, but it is much appreciated. I will of course be back next week, so until then, please ride safely and I'll see you soon.